cares to come up and share an announcement that we're all excited about. So John, come up here and share. I won't tell you more you do it.
I have to grow. I asked Ken if he'd say something about our Care Festival, and he said, no, you will. So here I am to share a little bit. This will be the 9th year that we've done Care Fest. And we're doing something a little different this year. Many of you have heard about it. Some of you may not have. But we're doing something called Care Festival. So from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock on Saturday, September 26th, the same day as Care Fest, at Francis Field, we will be having dinner. We will be having dinner for all of our Care Fest volunteers and any guests that they would like to bring. So we plan on feeding 1,000 people dinner at Francis Field. And then we will have bounce houses and things for kids to do, to play. We have a concert planned. Jason Gray, who is a really well-known Christian artist, will be there performing. And then after Jason, we have an evangelist named Reed Saunders, who's coming from Salem, Oregon, to deliver the message. So we would like all of you to be there. We can't feed all of you, but we will feed the first 1,000. I shouldn't say we can't. Who knows what we could do? But we're going to plan to feed 1,000. But this is free and it's open to everybody. So we want Francis Field filled up. We have a goal. It's a 450th anniversary, right? And our goal is for 450 people to come forward that night when Reed's finished. So we just want you to come and bring anyone you want to bring and fill up that field and bring your lawn chairs because you'll need a place to sit. Thank you.
We need to get excited, pray about all the good things that's going on. We hear all the negatives, don't we? I tell Norma a lot of times, I don't want to listen to the news if you have a nightmare and go to bed. I am so happy to have Judge Alexander Christini. Norma, I already shared, has been a friend of ours for years, has been part of our steering committee. I just want him to come share his heart, because he's been a real blessing to Norma and I and to many other people. When you're a judge, you still can be a good boy, can't you? Okay, we won't take you over to the room next door, because I tell a lot of these people, one thing about it, you come to jail, you get 3 hots in the cot. What more do you need? Anyhow, come on, Judge. We'll introduce you a good-looking girl you've got here beside you. Been looking at her, wondering where she came from.
Dr. Joyner said, I outkicked my coverage when I married Paige. She was a blessing in so many ways because, as many of you may know, that I lost my first wife to breast cancer 5 or 6 years ago, and Paige and I met a couple years ago, and she's been a true blessing in my life, as has my new 14-year-old, who never really knew her father. He died of a heart attack, and so the families come together really well. She gets along great with my sister. Paige has another daughter, 26-year-old, and she's with us, and she's always traveling, it seems like. So really a blessing to my family. Thank you. I got to tell you something else, too. Everybody knows Ken and Norma, what a blessing they are to our community. That guy sitting right there in front of me who's talking to my wife and not paying any attention to me. That's because he's heard me talk so many times, he knows what I'm going to say. Dr. Joyner, we talk about a blessing to have a superintendent like that for our schools. He talks the talk and he walks the walk. And I had an issue with my new 14-year-old this year, and he was on top of it, and he is such a blessing. So I want to wish you a good afternoon, brothers and sisters in Christ. Many years ago, as Ken said, I was, as a practicing lawyer in town, I was actually on the steering committee. I was very involved in the program. I used to make it over a lot. And I I don't have the time to do that as much anymore, and I regret that. But I always enjoy it when I do come back. And so the other day, Ken gives me a call, and Alex, how you doing? And we haven't seen much of you lately. I know. I'm sorry, Kenny. You're a judge, though. You got a lot to do, and we're praying for you. You're a judge, and you believe in free speech, don't you, Judge? And I said yes, and he said, good. You're giving one next month. That'd be he actually didn't say that part. I was, though, very active when I was a practicing lawyer in town, but then the governor reached down about 4 years ago and turned me from a lawyer into judge, and as my mother said, made an honest man out of me. I'm a county court judge. I handle about half the cases in county court. Judge Timlin handles the other half of the cases. That's our first level of trial court. I handle myself probably close to 4,000 criminal cases a year in my county court, probably about 1,500 civil cases. Our criminal cases are like DUIs and domestic violence cases. Our civil docket is, I handle a lot of evictions and small claims cases and cases up to $15,000 in controversy. And then I also have agreed with the chief judge to take over a felony court docket, which we refer to as a specialty court called drug court. And I want to spend a little bit of my time today on that, and I'll get back to that in a few minutes. But when I was a practicing lawyer, and even more as a judge, I have a lot of people asking, how can you really do any talking or ministering to these people? I mean, they've been off the jail a zillion times. Now I got these people, drug court, they're going to prison. What are you going to really be able to do to help? Can you really help? And just as I used to say when I was a practicing lawyer, I'm dealing with people, especially in criminal court, especially in drug court, who are at some of the lowest points in their life. They have gone through so much suffering. We talk about suffering with health issues. I've had so many miracles on health issues I've had through life. I'm not going to get into those. But when you're low down like that, when you're suffering, I really believe that's when God can be nearest. And that's when we can be most open to messages from God and unite with God. Nobody was tougher, I've said this a couple of times, than my dad, who passed away about the same time that my first wife did, Maureen, about 5 or 6 years ago. He was a Green Beret, 3-time Purple Heart winner, heavily decorated for valor in Vietnam. And he was tough on us. He was a tough disciplinarian. But if we were down, I have my wife here. I don't think I've ever broken down. I'm starting to. I'm so glad to have her here. I feel so blessed. And it makes me think of my other wife who I was blessed with, and my dad who died around the same time my wife did it. And that was a trying time. And I'm saying is when you're down, my dad, you better not kick me when I was down. You'd have to go through him. As tough as he was all the other times. Not when you're down. That's where our Heavenly Father is. Yes. When we're down on the ground, when we're lowest, He is near. Yes. So I'm dealing with these people that are in some of the lowest parts of their life, and He is near. Yes, right. We have a lot of health and wealth gospel out there. You see the preaching on television, but that's not the whole part of our ancient faith. Amen. Maybe because I'm a Catholic Christian, maybe sometimes we spend too much time thinking about it, but we believe that suffering is redemptive. Amen. If it is taken in a positive light, and as St. Paul says, joined in the sufferings with Christ, right, we become closer to Christ, not further away and bitter. We become more open to positive messages, not narrower. I have a couple of quotes. St. Paul says, our sufferings, our afflictions produce endurance. Endurance, proven character, hope, and hope in the Lord that does not disappoint. We say as Catholics, offer it up, this suffering. Join it with Christ. It's redemptive. Chapter 13 of Hebrews tells us discipline may seem a cause for pain, but later brings the peaceful fruits of righteousness. My wife Maureen fought a long battle with cancer. When she died, she went through a lot of suffering. And it just brought her closer to God. That suffering that she went through and that many of our friends and family members, and maybe us at some point in our lives, are going to go through. That clears out the fog of everyday life, that stuff that's not important, and that makes us focus in, as my wife did, right on God, the most important thing. And I was praying with her when she died, and I guarantee you, she was in heaven an hour before the devil knew she had passed, as her mother, who was born and raised in Ireland, used to say all the time. And then God puts Paige and those children into my life. He takes suffering, and He is near, and He heals us, and He blesses us. And I know those gentlemen and women standing in front of me in court, especially in drug court, are in that situation. God is near in that situation. I want to talk a little bit now about drug court. It was started actually in Florida, in Dade County, about 26 years ago, the first drug court. It was so successful, it was replicated in the state of Florida. By 1994, we had 12 drug courts. Right now, across the United States, we have almost 3,000 drug courts. And it has been designated as the most successful criminal justice system in the nation for rehabilitating offenders. Here's how it works. Here's how ours works. And there's a proven way to do this. There's a lot of literature on it now. We've had drug courts in front of us, so we follow a similar pattern. What I do is I handle part of a felony criminal docket. These are offenders, felony offenders, who have been in trouble for a long time. They're high risk, high needs, drug and other substance abuse felony offenders. These aren't weekend pot smokers. These are people with serious drug abuse issues, often mental health issues. They've been hopelessly addicted for years. The addiction has caused them to come in contact with the criminal justice system over and over again as they're committing burglaries and thefts and felony crimes to feed their habits. And we take these folks and we examine them. They're referred over to my court. Now, these are not violent felony offenders. We don't have murderers and rapists. And those folks are excluded from the program by legislative, the passage of the laws by the legislature. But these are still habitual felony offenders that have been in prison most of their life, in and out of jails or prisons because of their substance abuse and the related crimes. We take those folks. I can tell you, in my program, which is a little unique, all of these folks are looking at prison. All of these folks are getting ready to go to prison. They've got enough offenses or they've been violated on probation. They're headed to prison for a few years. They've got a lot of incentive to look at my program. We evaluate them closely. If we accept them into the program, we monitor them closely. How does it work? Drug court is a judge-supervised team of professionals. We've got prosecutors, public defenders, law enforcement officers, probation officers, and experts in the treatment of drug abuse. These are treatment professionals, we call them. And we review these cases, we accept these certain defendants, and then we place them on a program where they are strictly monitored. They come to see me in court, in formal court. They appear before me once a week. They get drug tested, randomly, but often several times a week. They don't know, they get a phone call in the morning, they come in and they get urinalysis. They get intensive counseling. They get one-on-one counseling. They get group counseling. They attend self-help sessions. They do community service work. And if they violate any of these rules that we have, the sanctions are firm and they're swift. I don't have to have a big hearing. They're in my court. They've been allowed to come in. They volunteered to come in. My team gets together. We review it. We decide what the appropriate sanction would be, and it's immediate. I have a pickup order entered. Maybe they go to jail for a little while. Maybe we send them to some other classes. We give them more testing, more counseling. We're trying to get them healed, not just to punish. I run into this all the time when I explain this program. I hear people say, you can't coerce successful drug treatment. They have to come to it willingly. Baloney. Don't believe it. Our coercive treatment works 4 times better than voluntary treatment. When When one of these folks goes to prison for a couple of years, they're going to get out. There's going to be over an 80% chance they're going to reoffend. When they get out of my program, less than 30% chance that they'll reoffend. And we do it for half the cost. The reason is it's not really that hard when you look at the big picture. About 86% of the people that go to prisons that are in Florida prisons have serious drug habits, and about 90% of them never get any treatment for it while they're in prison. So it doesn't take a rocket science to understand the difference. I'll tell you something else. Everybody, before they get out of my program, gets a job. I mean a real job, over the table, paying taxes, paying their court costs, and they pay back the victims of their crimes, restitution, every cent of it before they get out. We just graduated 4 folks. I do this about 4 times a year. And every one of them had paid all their court costs and made all their restitution. Had 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 clean days behind them, clean and sober days. And now the little secret. Shh. Most of our programs are faith-based.
All right.
They're tried and true programs, and they're used all over the country. And they're the ones that are successful. The science shows us that. Amen. Now, everybody in this room knows why they're successful. We can tell them why they're successful because the Almighty is involved in those programs. We keep a couple, other programs in our pocket just in case somebody asks. If they, we can send them to a different program. But the overwhelming majority and the successful cases are sent to faith-based programs. And we know why, because we just talked about it, because God is near for these people that are in this state of their lives. When they do appear in front of me, they appear in front of me weekly. As they progress through the program, they might appear in front of me then every couple of weeks, and then every 3 weeks. We're talking about not just months, but usually years to get through the program. The minimum you can get through it by, you can do it in about a year, but it usually takes most folks a couple years, because when they have these relapses, and they will, and we bring these sanctions forward, a lot of our sanctions will result in their loss of clean days. They'll have to start again, and so even though they could get through the program in a year, it usually takes significantly longer. Not longer than probably they would be in prison, though. Usually a shorter period of time. And when they complete it, we hold a graduation. We do it after hours. We do it in the Old County Commission building, which we now use for traffic cases over in the criminal justice complex over there, the courthouse complex. We invite friends, family, dignitaries, we have speakers, and we put them through a graduation. All the self-esteem they gain from those clean days, from that positive reinforcement. When they appear in front of me in court, first thing I'll do, I'll start calling the docket. Jim, come on down. You got 9 clean days. And we'll give them a big hand. 9 clean days you got. And I'll talk to them a little bit. How you feeling? You know how much better you're looking than last time I saw you? And it's true. I'm speaking the truth to them. Sheila, come on down. You got 25 clean days. Jim, 90 clean days. 180. Carol, come down. You got 180 clean days. Come on. Come on down here. And we'll talk to them and ask how they're feeling. Ask how things going. Now, my drug team is meeting every week. We're also sending emails 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. We're discussing these people all the time, tweaking the program this way or that way to give them the treatment they need. Last month when I had these 4 graduates, all of them had become addicted by the age of 13 or 14. Criminal assault cases being prosecuted in 3rd grade. Remember one of my participants. They've lost their friends, their family. They've lost their freedom. A lot of them had lost their faith when they came into that program. But not when they get out of that program. Let me tell you. And I'm going to share a little bit more with you about that in a minute. One of our graduates was homeless when he came into the program. In our program, he's been helping the homeless. He's now graduated. He's had food drives, shelter drives. Really a blessing to the program and to the community. Another one of our graduates had been in and out of prisons, been addicted for 3 decades. He was 43 years old, older than most of the folks that were taken into drug court. He now has a business. It's owned with another individual. He's the manager of the business. He collects the money. He opens it. He closes it. He got all his court costs paid off. He had a lot of restitution. He got all that paid off, and he's got $5,000 in the bank for his son when his son grows up and wants to go to college. Another one of our graduates. Half his life in jail or prison, hopelessly addicted. Here's what he told me, quote, "Drug court and my return to the faith in God made me the son I always wanted to be, and even a better father than I ever thought I could be." 600 clean days he graduated with the other night. I have them fill out a questionnaire when they're getting ready to graduate. They do a little biography and a little questionnaire. One of the questions on the questionnaire is, how will you handle the stresses and challenges of remaining sober when you're no longer in drug court and law-abiding? Quote, I was reading it again last night. "God willing, I will never use or break the law again. I have a 6-step plan of how I'll do it. Number 1, pray. Number 2, pray. Number 3, the serenity prayer. Number 4, the 3rd step prayer." Now, 5 and 6 were talk to my sponsor and my therapist, but I think his sponsor was his pastor. So you can see how heavily involved the Lord is in his programs. And they work. I noticed a card last night. I was staying late. I told Paige I'm going to stay late. I'm going to put a few thoughts down on paper about drug court that I can speak to Christian professional resources about. And as I was there working on this, I came across this. This was a participant in our drug court program who gave me this envelope last Tuesday during drug court that I had forgotten about. And as I was preparing last night, I saw it there sitting beside me, and I opened it up, and I want to share a little bit of it with you. I feel like God put it there, so I'd bring it today. I won't read every word. Judge Christini, I wanted to take a few minutes to express my gratitude. Doggone it, why am I doing this today? I'm going to blame you. You know you're going to get the blame. To express my gratitude and thankfulness for your gracious welcome to drug court. I truly believe in my faith that God brings you to a path where you can also shed light. And you have done that for this court. I understand I may be at a limited intelligence in the beginning. But I also understand the gifts of the Holy Spirit, the wisdom, Christ-like qualities, and allowing one to be used as an instrument of healing. And that is what I pray for. So thank you, Judge Christini, for making a difference in my life. Together, we'll help create a world with incredible beauty and a place of safety and peace. I got to lighten up a little bit here. So, the story goes. I'm swearing in this guy, getting ready to sentence him. I put him under oath. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Now, a lot of judges these days, and the Supreme Court says you don't have to put that last part on anymore. I always put it on. Amen. So help you God. And this fella, he did a gulp, and he said, I do. And we sat there, and a minute or so went by, and he hadn't said anything, and another minute goes by, and I said, well, do you have something that you want to say? He says, well, Judge, with all those limitations you just put on me, I don't believe I have anything else. So I want to tell you a little bit about the historical roots. I thought about this last night as I was writing down that story. The right to remain silent. I get a lot of questions about that. You know, you'll see the judges now, a lot of these things are televised. You'll see The defendant in this case has chosen not to testify and not take the stand. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you are not to consider that in any fashion and weigh that when you're deliberating in this case. Gee, that doesn't make any sense. Well, it does make sense, and let me tell you why. The founding fathers of this country and their mothers believed so much in that oath that they didn't want to place a person in the position of swearing and damning and lying to God to try to keep themselves out of the death penalty or out of prison. So they gave them an out. They said, rather than cause you to put yourself in a position where you might violate that oath as a witness, you have the right not to testify at all, and that will not be used against you. So if anybody ever tells you the Founding Fathers didn't base this system on God's law, you tell them they don't know what they're talking about. Go talk to Judge Christini about it. Our whole system's based on those 10 commandments. I think right now, one of the states out west is fighting a ruling that's having them take down the 10 commandments. The governor, I think it's Oklahoma, is refusing to do it, and she's appealed. We know it's not a tough time. It is a tough time to appeal and prevail on those issues. Another lighter note. Judge Alexander actually told me about this one. He had ruled against this fellow several times in a hearing. He was getting ready to pronounce what his decision would be. The guy was clearly upset at him. And he raised his hand. Judge Alexander called on him. He said, Judge, can you hold somebody in contempt just for what they're thinking? Judge Alexander said, no, not for what you're thinking. He goes, good, because I think you're an ass. You got to dwell on some of that light stuff because there's so much pressure in the job, which is what I always loved about this group. The pressure I faced as a lawyer, the pressure I now face as a judge to come in here and be amongst God-fearing people who are praying for you. We have our intercessors. We can pray for each other. It is an oasis in a desert. And I always love coming. I always tell myself, I got to make it more. And I'll try to do that. I'll try to get over here more this year. I've been bad this last year, Ken. But I love it. I love the ecumenism, as Pope John Paul II used to call it, about these groups. All our Christians of all faiths coming together, praying together, helping one another. I'm a practicing Catholic, probably the first Catholic you ever had on your board, I think, over there. Ken was like, you're a what? You're a communist? But remember, one of the last things Jesus said before his ascension. Now I just noticed, I wrote here before his resurrection, but not his resurrection. Before his ascension, he got the apostles together and he said, love one another and be one as I and the Father are one. He saw that these apostles would go through the world, that there would be divisions that St. Paul talks about later. And he reminded us, be one. And if there was ever a time when we had to be one as a Christian, as a God-fearer in this country, with the decisions coming down, it's right now. All right. So now the most important question. I know, Joe, you heard it before, but this is the time-honored question of how many Christians does it take to change a light bulb? Amish answer. What's a light bulb? Baptist answer. At least 15. One to change the light bulb, 3 committees to approve the change and decide who brings the potato salad. Remember the question. How many Christians does it take to change a light bulb? Charismatic, only 1. Our hands are already in the air. Methodist. Undetermined. Whether your light is bright, dull, or completely out, you are loved. You can be a light bulb, a turnip bulb, or a tulip bulb. Church-wide lighting services is planned for Sunday. Bring the bulb of your choice and a covered dish. This one I don't know if I can still do, but Mormons. How many to change a light bulb? 5. 1 husband and 4 wives to tell him how to do it. Pentecostal. 10. 1 to change the bulb and 9 to pray against the spirit of darkness. Roman Catholic. None. We don't believe in change, and we only use candles. My favorite, though, is Unitarian. We choose not to make a statement either in favor or against the need for a light bulb. However, if in your own journey you have found that light bulbs work for you, that is fine. You're invited to write a poem or compose a modern dance about your light bulb for next Sunday's service, in which we will explore a number of light bulb traditions, including incandescent, fluorescent, three-way, long life, and tinted, all of which are equally valid paths to luminescence. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we the judges work for you. It's your courthouse. Come on up to the second floor and watch us hold court sometime. I think you'll be impressed on how we're doing a little bit of justice for you. Let me see what time it is. Last time, I came and spoke, Ken actually told me, you didn't talk long enough. That's because, priests, they get up and they get down in 20 minutes. That's kind of like the rule for Catholics. But he said, you got to talk a little bit longer. What I'll do is, if you want to stay and ask a few questions, I'm happy to take some questions and answer them as best I can. All right, any questions? And I must have done a good job of covering all these subjects. Thank you all very much.
Alex, you kind of get my emotions going too. I'm one of these guys, when the president of the Lord shows up, I want to cry and I'll talk.